Welcome to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery.
An edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, coming your way from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. I'm Craig Way, he's the head coach, and back to work this week. And normally we get on into the show a little bit before we get to some of the questions, but some of them are apropos. Like, for example, Mike was asking how practice has gone this week. Gene, one of our all-time favorites, wanting an update on the team's overall mental and emotional state and health, all that sort of stuff. And I guess those are going to be regular questions coming in when you have such a highly emotionally charged game that ends up not the way you wanted it to end up.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned this after the game, the pain and agony of defeat, that's real, but that's sport. We all watched, sport growing up, and that's what attracted us to it. And in sport, somebody wins and somebody loses. And if you invest into it, into that game and your preparation and your intent and what you're trying to do, when you don't get the outcome that you're looking for, that hurts, And I think at the end of it all, when we got back together as a football team after that, our first team meeting, that the best way I know to go about it is, one, to address the issues that we have right up front, to make sure that nothing is left out there of thought and of wonder. And I thought our players received it really well. The next thing was, okay, this is what we're going to fix moving forward. The next thing was, this is how we're going to fix it, because our job is to put you in the best position to have success. And then ultimately, paint a picture of, what this can look like for the second half of the season and how it can go, and all the things that we want are still there for us if we put in the work. And it's one thing to say, yes, we want to be in Arlington in December, but you better focus on this week, and you better focus on today if you want Saturday to go the way we want it to go, to ultimately that we can start knocking off one target at a time. But, the football team we're playing this weekend deserves all of our attention. This is a very good football team, and so I think our players understood that, bought in, and have practiced really well here for the past 3 days.
It's not like you want your guys to be hurt and feel pain, but you kind of expect them to be unhappy and a little bit mad and angry and feeling bad and feeling down a little bit, and then you take that energy from it and you transport it to the practice field and their preparation for the week.
Well, I think if we didn't feel the pain Saturday like all Longhorns did, walking back in that locker room and getting on the bus going home, then I'd have a real problem on my hands. Our guys care. Our guys put in a lot of work. They're invested into this football program, into this team, into one another. And so when you don't get the outcome, and especially the way that game went there at the end, that's got to sting. If it doesn't sting, this might not be the right thing for you. So our guys get that, but then using that and using some of that energy, because there is still some energy there, and albeit there may be some negative energy because you're upset and you're frustrated and why didn't it work? Well, let's channel it to how we can make it work the next time that we go, and I think our guys have really done that.
I guess also, like you said, in a game like that, because it was a game that had, obviously, momentum shifts, momentum swings, and as you pointed out to us on the postgame, you said there were 3 or 4 huge, if you will, 50-50 type moments in the game. I'll give you an example, obviously, with the guys when Kennedy Brooks breaks off the long run there late in the third quarter. The guys catch up to him. Deshaun Jameson rips the ball out there, but by a microfraction of a second, the knee touches down, so he's down. Incredible pass catch made by Marvin Mims in the corner by just the hair, the slightest of margin, gets the foot in bounds. Those are things, and I've heard you say this before, you can't count on the luck necessarily to go. You've got to make your own way, and you got to make your own luck, that kind of thing. And sometimes those things just seem to snowball a little bit.
Yeah, they did. And for whatever reason, that's the way that game went. And I feel like as much as I watched their guy get his toe inbounds on the touchdown, Marcus Washington makes a heck of a catch for his own right for us, and his toe was just out of bounds. And those are all those momentum swinging plays. And the thing that I think we learned in this game was, you can't try to swing the momentum back in your favor by doing something, trying to make a play, because ultimately that's when you make a mistake. and that's when you can start to hurt yourself. And I felt like we tried to do that some Saturday, where guys were thinking, man, we got to make a play now. The game's getting close, and then you start to make the mistakes. Some of those plays are going to happen. That is football. There's a reason the ball is shaped the way it is. It doesn't bounce where it's supposed to go all the time. You can drop a football 10 times in a row. It can go 10 different directions. They have 2 fumbled snaps that the quarterback drops that he picks right back up and completes 2 passes after that I don't very recall ever seeing that. It happened twice in our game, one for a touchdown. So those things are going to happen. Hopefully not that many in one game, but they're going to happen. What we do moving forward is we've got to refocus and just focus on the next snap of doing our job, because that's how we played when we got that lead, was just doing our job over and over and over and over again, and not trying to hit an 8-run home run. They don't have those in baseball. They don't have them in football either. So that's a real learning lesson for us moving forward, because hopefully we have other games where we get big leads and then are able to solidify them.
I want to go back to that doing your job thing for a moment. I always think I've heard lots of coaches down through the years say, and one of the earliest times I really heard it in those terms, we had a basketball player years ago, Roy Al-Ivy, who was tremendous, played here, and he's coaching in the NBA now, and he was one of the ones who used to say to his teammates, do your job. Don't worry about anybody else's job. Do your job. Is that one of the things that is a challenge for young people that are playing, to be able to dial in and make sure they do their job and not try to do too much because maybe they think they see something that they can make a play on or try to help the team with, and it's done out of hustle, maybe a hustle error. But is that one of the challenges for younger guys, even just even juniors or seniors, to try to make sure they dial in and focus in on doing their job and not try to do beyond what they're capable of doing?
Well, without a doubt. I think the key to it all is, one, when you get into emotional type games, which Saturday clearly was, the emotion can drive the want to do more than I'm supposed to do. When in reality, when you're a really accountable football player and a really accountable teammate, which is what we strive to be, am I accountable to my teammates? Can they really count on me? That is, what is my job for this play? Can I do my job to the best of my ability? And when you do that, that's a really good play. And it may be really unassuming. It may be on kickoff coverage and you're a safety, but you end up making a tackle at the 26-yard lines that most people wouldn't think is a big deal until you're not in your gap on that kickoff coverage and it becomes a long touchdown run. Well, what happened? Oh, so-and-so went too far down in there to try to make a tackle. So that's across the board, right? That's universal. So the idea of being accountable to one another by doing your job consistently over and over and over again, then you're in the right spot to make the great play when that opportunity presents itself. DeMarvion blocks a punt. We've got 3 guys there that are meant to be there to scoop up that punt and score. So all those little things start to add up, which I felt like we lost a little of that in the second half. Guys were starting to, I always say, peek around the corner. What else is going on over there? You got to take care of what's going on right in front of you.
Is that also, and have you seen it over the years, no matter where you've been and watching football and coaching football, that if the team you're with, gets out to a big lead, that's one of the things that's most difficult to guard against, is that peek around the corner type of moment?
It's not so much when you get the lead, but you can feel it when a team maybe starts to come back. And now it's like, well, I got to do something to kind of stop the bleeding here. I got to do something. Well, what you need to do is do your job. And sometimes you can see it on the flip side when you fall behind in a game, and then it's like, man, we got to catch up in this game. I got to go make a great play. And that's when you can get yourself in trouble. Sometimes that works. You see a guy, throw a ball up in between 3 players and he jumps up and catches it, and it's, well, what a great play. When in reality, his read was to throw it to the guy that at 10 yards in the flat or whatever it is and move the ball down the field. So I think it goes both ways. But the emotions of football are amazing, and the momentum in football is amazing. That's why I believe this is the greatest sport on earth, is because it takes so many people to make a team come together to perform for 60 minutes every Saturday, and it can take 1 or 2 for all that to fall apart. And so you've got to be accountable to one another.
Anybody who saw your quarterback after the game would have seen the emotion there, because it hit him as well, and he played so well in the football game. What do you say to Casey, whether it's after the game or when you get back on the practice field on Monday or however, about you did your job. You did the things you were going to do. Keep doing what you're doing, and let the other things happen.
Right. Well, I mean, I talked to him that night, actually, and I told him that I was really proud of him. I knew that there was a lot of buildup for that game for him, and for him to go out and play the way that he did. Even injuring his thumb early in that ball game and fighting through it and playing through it. I mean, I was extremely proud of him. And yes, we didn't get the outcome of the scoreboard that we wanted, but he should have been proud of the way he played. And the way he played in that game is going to be plenty good enough for us to win a lot of football games here with him as our quarterback. So he should be proud of that.
All right, we've got a lot to get to on the program. More of your questions coming up. Obviously, we'll talk about this week's opponent as well, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. All that and more coming up. This is Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark here from Pluckers, the West Campus location, seen on the Longhorn Network and heard across the state of Texas on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Pluckers Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. This kind of goes along the lines of what we were talking about. Paul with a question says, as a coaching staff and as a builder of character for these young men, how do you and the coaching staff deal with the highs and lows, the emotional part of that on a week-in, week-out basis to make sure they stay on task?
Well, I think this is something that, I've really put in a lot of time into in studying and talking to people and the experts and being around some of the great coaches I've been around. I think there's that's a slippery slope when you try to ride those emotions, right? When it's really high, man, I'm high and everything's great, and and then when it's really low, man, I'm down in the dumps, I'm feeling sorry for myself, and poor me's and woe is me. What I really try to do is play pretty even keel. Not that I'm not happy and excited for our players and our coaches and everything that we were able to accomplish, and not that I don't hurt for them when things don't go the way we want them to go. But I think there's part of it is as a leader, we have to stand in a place that I guess you almost want to say to be admired. Man, if I could stand like that, and then I can get people to gravitate towards how I'm standing, whether it's through the face of adversity or through the face of excitement, that's where we want our team to be. And so, I think there's a level of respect of the game. When you win a certain way, and you conduct yourself in a certain way with class and represent the university in a certain way. And the same as when we lose. And part of that is not wearing our emotions on our sleeve in a sense that is disrespectful to anybody else, but yet we always try to celebrate with our teammates. That's why I go back to the TCU game. We got a couple penalties in that game that were not representative of what we stand for in our football program. And I said, I think I got asked on the radio, are you going to fix that on Monday? I said, no, I'm going to fix it by the time we get on the bus. So those are things. And so there's winning, there's losing, there's highs, there's lows. But if you can find a way to maintain a level of, we're kind of in that sweet spot, that's where I try to remain, and then I try to get everybody else back into that spot as consistently and as quickly as I can, because that's when we're in our groove and that's when we're at our best.
It's a seldom discussed part of the whole coaching persona, what you just described. I mean, we hear of the X's and O's and the recruiting and how important all of that is, but it's not often that discussed of that part of what you're doing in terms of the building of character. You clearly embrace it. Is it a challenge, you think, for coaches in today's society? I understand. I know you spoke to over 1,000 coaches there in one forum at the Texas High School Coaching Convention about similar type things.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Social media, how long is the show tonight? Social media has changed our entire society, right? It's look at me, right? It's look at me world. And people can put on social media everything that they want you to see. They're not telling their whole story, but just what they want you to see. and so that we can get some instant gratification of the likes and the comments and things of that nature, and because that makes me allegedly feel good. And I think that's a dangerous thing, because I don't think we should try to rely on others to make ourselves feel good. We should find a common place and a peace internally that allows us to exude exactly who we are, and we shouldn't have to sugarcoat it in any way or put certain things out or not. But it's dangerous because, in my opinion, social media now has driven down into our players, and in turn, to how to motivate those guys in a way that doesn't make them feel like, well, you're not supporting me in what I want to do and how I want to do it. NIL's not helping that either. I'm not saying those are bad things. We just have to do a really good job as coaches of navigating and educating our players on exactly what it is. If you choose to be on social media, you're choosing to get the really good likes and comments, but you're also choosing to have to accept the negative comments and things, and that's a choice. You don't have to be on social media, but if you're going to, you can't get mad at the one guy who sends a negative comment, albeit he may only have 5 followers, and how much of an impact does he have? But he may have some negative things to say.
And you don't necessarily have to respond to it
exactly
either.
Right. That's your choice to do that. But if you're going to go in that arena, you got to understand the arena that you're in.
And I would imagine probably some of your guys probably, if they didn't already know and find out, they probably got another taste of it this week probably.
Without a doubt. And that comes with the territory. I think, that we are extremely fortunate to be part of this football program. We're extremely fortunate to have been part of this rivalry that we get to be in. We're extremely fortunate to get to do what we do, right? Not everybody gets to be a football coach. Not everybody gets to play college football and get their education paid for. So we're fortunate to do that. Does that mean we get to have a target on our back, or it should be that way? No, but it comes with the territory. That is the world that we live in. And as an athlete and as a competitor, you have to kind of accept that. And not only accept it, maybe that fuels your fire a little bit, right? And that's okay. And we're always looking for some subtle motivators in there. But we got to understand the arena that we're in. And we can't want to be out in front when things are really good, and then when things aren't really good, try to slide back to the back. We got to stand tall. We got to stand together.
You meet with all of your guys individually as the situation warrants and that sort of thing, and as they request as well. Have you gotten more and more questions about things like social media, NIL, things like that? Do you have your guys asking you about those things as well as how can I be better and what do I need to do to improve my situation?
I don't necessarily get too many questions about it. Like a lot of the things in our program, I try to address a lot of them up front. I try to be really transparent with them. I give them my honest opinion, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. They know exactly how I feel about the situations. I'm all for them in the promotion of what's going on out there, and I'm here to support them in every way. I'm more concerned that they aren't getting taken advantage of in a way that can hinder them not only now but maybe in the future, and to make sure that they aren't too fragile to be in that arena, and that they're prepared for those things that are out there, because it's the real world. It's real life. And as much as we would love everybody to love us and pat us on the back and rub our neck, that's not how the real world works. And so we've got to understand how to deal with when it's not that way. How are you going to deal with it moving forward?
I've had several student athletes say to me over the years that the thing that took them the most by surprise, and it was something that coaches, broadcasters, everybody has to deal with, regular people, is the realization that there will be some people who, for whatever reason they choose not to like you. And there's nothing you can do about that, because that's just how they're built and the choice they make. And coming to grips with that, I think, is an important thing for guys.
I think so, too. And, I talked about this a while back. As athletes, as coaches, and anything else, pre-social media, right? Pre-social media, we play Saturday. The game ends. They don't get in the locker room or get on the bus and turn on their phone and read about all the comments about how I made this mistake or I made that mistake or so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that. They may see the news that night. They may read the paper the next day, but they don't see all that. All that talk that people now put on social media used to happen at the water cooler on lunch breaks, right, at work. Used to happen at the bar when the guys were sitting at the bar. Or maybe after church on Sunday morning. but they never heard those things. And so you always felt like, man, everybody likes me, right? Well, nowadays, our guys know right away. Hey, you're either public enemy number one or you're the greatest thing ever. There's not a whole lot in between ground
Instant
here.
reaction.
It's instant reaction. And unfortunately, too many people, especially younger people on social media, that effect, that matters to them because their world is in social media. That's where they live. And so now all of a sudden I'm out there and I'm getting negative comments on something I never posted because I only really want to post what you like. But this isn't a post. This was my play. This was my performance. And now you get some of the negative reaction. That's the mental health stuff that we're talking about, and how we deal with that is really important.
All right, we got a lot more to get through here on the program. Hey, Longhorn fans, luck happens with the Texas Lottery. Congratulations to Liz Sparrow, who won Longhorn prizes and Texas Lottery scratch tickets. Luck could happen to you, too. Play Texas Lottery today. Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery. From here at Pluckers, the West Campus location, continues in a moment. First down, Thompson will turn and swing a pass out to Worthy. Sager turns outside to the 30, broken tackle. Sager Worthy to midfield, the 40. Oh yeah, folks, say goodnight to it. First play of the game, 75 big ones to the house.
Well, there was a reason they wanted the football.
On second down, now going in motion from right to left is Washington. Snap back to Thompson with some time. Looking, lofts it deep for Worthy to the end zone. He caught it! Xavier Worthy! Touchdown, Texas! Worthy with a huge catch. And the Longhorns are an extra point away from tying the score. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark. There's a perfect example of what you were just talking about the highs and the lows and that sort of thing. And I thought it was really, really interesting to hear from X. Here's a guy who made two spectacular plays, and he had the one disappointing play on the fumble coming out of the end zone. And he made a point to in the media session the other day to let everybody know what you said to him when he came over to the sideline. You actually said, "Give me a smile" to him. He said, "Give me a smile. We're gonna be okay."
Well, I really did. He came over, and, I mean, he felt horrible, obviously, and I knew we were getting the ball right back. I mean, they had the short field. We were going to get it back, and I just said to him, I said, "Hey, man, give me a smile. This is football. This is sports, you know. You got to go on to the next play. Let's go smile. Let's go do what you do. Have fun doing it." This guy's an unbelievable competitor. I mean, I think we see it, and it's starting to really show itself as we go. And I said, "Hey, just give me a smile." I said, "Hey, this ball's going to be coming back to you really quickly, and I need you at your best to go do it. So let's go play." And then right then, Bijan was right there to do the same thing. And sure enough, I think he catches probably 4 more balls before the game's over. Obviously, the one touchdown, but another deep ball and a couple other kind of sideline type catches.
And that goes back to what we've been talking about this whole first half hour of the show is your role and that of the coaching staff in how you relate to and deal with your players. That's one of his lowest moments after the fumble on the kickoff return, and yet in a moment where all the momentum clearly had shifted and everybody knew, and there it was, and it was foreboding, Oklahoma was positioned to take the lead, you're telling him to give you a smile. I mean, I would say that's a lot of coaching involved in that, isn't it?
I think so. And I mean, hey, everybody's got their own style in which they do it. I feel really connected to our players. I love those guys, and it's, it takes time to develop a real relationship and one with a solid foundation, and it's not just fluff, 2 weeks on the job. I love you guys in the team meeting. I think you earn that and that ability to say it. And I told him that Friday night that, hey, we're going to go play this game. Hey, we all want it to go great, but at the end of the day, I love you guys, and I love the work that you put in, and you've earned the right to go win. We'll see what happens. And that was that moment for me to say, hey, the kid didn't want to fumble the ball, and I get it. There's some things we could have done better, and he could have maybe carried the ball a little different. But at the end of the day, it wasn't about his want to. He wanted to do it right. It just didn't happen that play, and he wants to do it right moving forward. And so I want to make sure he was in the best frame of mind to put him in the best position to be successful. And, in that time it worked out for us.
We've been talking about a mental and emotional well-being and all that, but Chloe and Caitlin here are asking about the physical part of it. They want to know how Jordan Whittington and Jacoby Jones have done. You made the announcement, obviously, they were going to have surgery this week.
Yep, they both had surgery earlier in the week here, and, I think both surgeries went well. They're sorely missed, I can tell you that. Both really good football players for us, both really committed football players. I know both of them are hurt, that they couldn't be there for their teammates the whole game, last game, and then obviously here moving forward for however long that is. So it's tough. It's unfortunate. We try to connect with all our guys. Whenever they go in to have surgery and things, that's a big deal, to have surgery, and especially if you're away from home and maybe your parents are coming in for the surgery, but maybe they're here for 3 days. They're with us. They're rehabbing with us. I mean, they're in there, the blood, the sweat, the tears, trying to come back off of obviously a couple pretty serious injuries. That's why we're here. As much as it is, I love the X's and O's and I love the recruiting and all that. But when you have your team and you have that bond and you're connected, those are irreplaceable relationships and moments for me.
And you've got guys, as you were asked about this today, ready to step in, stand in. Marcus Washington certainly, and Calvante Dixon among others on the offensive side, and on the defensive side, maybe the time you said here is for Alfred Collins, who's been one of your more consistent guys of late there on the defensive end.
Yeah, and I think that it all goes back to kind of how I keep talking about how we practice. We try to develop everybody in our program. It's not just the starters get the reps and everybody else is just trying to service them. We try to develop every player in our program so that over time they're all consistently getting better, which in turn we should get better as a team, because you never know what can happen. You never know when an injury or 2 or 3 can occur. Knock on wood, sometimes they can occur at the same position. And next thing you know, you thought a guy 2 weeks ago would never be a player, and now he's getting opportunities in games. So it all falls back to, are we doing everything in our power to develop our players and then ultimately put them in position to have success, whether that's on the football field, in the classroom, and in life. And we won't ever back off of that premise of the way we approach it with them.
All right, plenty more still to come here on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark. We'll continue here from Pluckers, the West Campus location, and brought to you by the Texas Lottery and the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield.
Hey Coach, what are some of your typical team building activities?
We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark here from Pluckers, the West Campus location here in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery, and we thank the team at Academy Sports and Outdoors for that question. We've been talking about the building up of team character and the mental outlook of it all. What's a typical team building activity that you might do? It could be preseason, in-season, whatever it might be.
There's a lot, right? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, lot that vary. One thing we really try to do is, connect our position coaches with our players. And so we do kind of periodic meals where the position coach will go eat with his position group off-site, right? Because so many times they view us as coaches as just that guy in that meeting room, and you come to find out we're kind of real people too.
Get you away from the building, you're a regular guy.
We have Sunday night family dinners where our own families come and have dinner with us on Sunday evenings. And then we have a couple position groups every Sunday night that come and eat with us, again, to see, hey, the coaches are actually real guys. So when they're talking to us, that's something to build upon. But then there's other things we do collectively together. Sometimes they have nothing to do with football. A, it's about getting to know one another. B, learning the value of accountability and doing things together one-on-one, whether it's problem solving, things of that nature. And sometimes just getting to know one another. You've got a fifth-year senior and a Derek Kerstetter, and you've got a true freshman, Xavier Worthy. We got to get those guys to connect with one another so that there is that connection. So we do a lot of things, but in the end, it's a huge component to it, right? I mean, the togetherness of your team is so valuable when critical moments arise in game.
I want to remind fans that Academy Sports and Outdoors is the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the Big 12 Conference. Okay, toward that end, would it be safe to say, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, that of those position groups, when they go to dinner, that the most food is consumed either by your offensive line or your defensive line?
Wow, yeah, I would say it's safe to say that. Who would win?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a tough call. We
'Cause
saw some 4D linemen here last week, and they were putting some wings away now. So, but I know we've got some offensive linemen that can go pretty good too.
Yeah. All right. Here's, by the way, since we're on the subject of food, we had a question here from Harold and Pat. They want to know, Tex-Mex in California or Tex-Mex in Texas?
Well, clearly in Texas.
Okay.
I mean that's.
All right.
We needed a better question than that.
They just needed some confirmation of that. That's all. They just wanted confirmation of that. Pete wanting to know, or it's Pat and Harold wanting to know, your first Texas OU game, how did the rivalry hit you by comparison to the Iron Bowl, to Alabama-Auburn?
Well, different. You know, Auburn, Alabama, they used to play at a neutral site in Birmingham. Now that game is not played that way anymore. That is, you go to Tuscaloosa, play at Alabama, then you go to Auburn and you play the Iron Bowl there against Auburn. I think what made this one so unique to me, and probably the most unique, was the split crowd. That was fascinating. I had never really been part of a game like that, even in some of the biggest national championship games and playoff games. Because yes, the crowd is split evenly, but they're dispersed amongst one another. The way the Cotton Bowl was split was tremendous. I was blown away. I was blown away on the drive in. I was blown away kind of just being there. At first, when I took the field, I'll be honest with you, I was a little, is this a road game? Because we come out of OU, OU's fans are at the tunnel. And then you see the burnt orange kind of sea there at the far end. And so I wanted to make a point at the end of pregame warmups that our guys acknowledge the fans that were there. And we had tremendous support. Our fans were tremendous all day. And I wish we could have given them one more great moment there, and hopefully we can here in the future.
Did you see the dividing line right at midfield? Because I've always been fascinated by that. I thought if I wasn't broadcasting it, I'd want to sit by at least one game just to hear what the conversation is like.
I would too. I'll be honest with you. Maybe next year I'll go up there and find out and ask a few questions. But I mean, it's one of a kind. I mean, it really is one of a kind. I don't know. I know they do. I think Florida and Georgia do the cocktail
But it's
party.
like you said, it's split
up. But
yeah.
this thing split right in half was, wow, that was special.
No doubt about it. All right, we have more coming up when we continue with Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from here at Pluckers, the West Campus location in Austin, presented by the Texas Lottery. We'll continue in a moment.
Kicked it only 8 times this year, averaging 46.5 yards per kick. Longhorns block it. It's high in the air. Jump ball. Ball loose on the turf. Still scrambling for it. Texas is going to have it at the 2-yard line. DeMarvion Overshown did it again. He blocked it. Brendan Schooler came down with it. What a start to this ball game for the Longhorns.
Back on Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location. We've talked about it quite a bit. I know folks have asked you about it, by the way. The pressure that your special teams continues to put, what Coach Banks has with his guys putting pressure on the opposing team's punting game has been impressive.
Yeah, it is. We're definitely an attack-oriented operation. We know we've got a great returner in Deshaun Jameson. And so we know teams would like to cover. And now I think what teams are figuring out, you have to protect too. And, I know we had the one touchdown call back by DJ, but for the most part, now we're applying the pressure. It was Keelan Robinson early on. Now DeMarvion's gotten his. And so hopefully we're applying so much pressure on that unit, you got to kind of pick your poison. You're going to try to cover it, or you're going to try to protect and now risk the return. But either way, that unit's been fantastic for us. Really along with our punt team. Dicker's been fantastic punting the football. Our coverage unit's been great. That's been a positive. So a lot of positives on special teams and a lot of buy-in from the players.
Yeah, it begs the question. I know some folks are asking, what goes into the decision? I'm sure field position has something to do with about when to go after him, and when to set up the return for Deshaun?
I think part of it is, you have a game plan going in. Special teams is no different than offense or defense. And, we break down every opponent. We break down exactly what they do. We look at our strengths, their strengths, where are they vulnerable, or at least we think where we can attack. And that could be field goal block. It could be kick coverage. It could be kickoff return, all those phases. And then in the end, you trust the game plan early on. And then you've got to be willing to make the adjustments in game because they may be bringing you something different than you thought, and you've got to make those necessary adjustments. But in the end, I think we've got a great play caller on special teams in Jeff Banks. I think he's the best in the business. He prepares our guys really well, but he calls a really good game on special teams. And it's no different than being a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. We had 46 snaps on special teams Saturday. I mean, that's a third of the game, and that's the part that we don't want to miss. And he had to call 46 plays on special teams Saturday.
Wow. Here's a question from Elton who wants to know what your, other than game day, what's your favorite part of a game week?
I love the game plan. I really do. I love the creativity of it. I love the idea that everything we're doing has a real reason for why we're doing it, whether it's for a specific player, whether it's to set up the next play, whether it's to attack a certain scheme that they have or attack a specific player that they have. All those, that kind of chess game that you play during the week, that part of it's great. But it's about Wednesday night for me that I make the switch to here's all these plays and ideas that we have where I start playing the game in my head of when I'm going to call what, when, why, and how. And this is about the time for me. I kind of leave you after this, Craig, and
right.
I go back, and it's like I'm starting to call the game. I'm going back to the tape, and I'm trying to get a real feel for the defensive play caller and what is his personality and what might come. And from here till about game day, I just keep calling the game in my head, and I start making some subtle adjustments to the call sheet and start playing the what-if game, the contingency planning in case the first one doesn't go great. What are you going to do next? And I love that aspect of it. And then I love the idea that conveying it to the players, whether it's into tomorrow, Friday walkthrough, Friday night meeting is very big for me because I have that offensive unit in there and I can really convey to the players why we're doing what we're doing and what we're setting up. All of that kind of chess game, the build up to the game, I really love.
Do you also enjoy, you've been asked about this before, about scripting out the first 15 plays or however many plays. Do you enjoy that part before going in? I've got these plays ready to go.
I do love it. We take a lot of pride in it. I think our players here now really have bought into taking the pride in those openers and execution in there. And we've really been pretty dynamic early in ball games, and the execution has been there. Which,
by the way, that was the plan all along. Win the toss, take the ball, because you had that play ready to roll.
We were ready to roll on that, and part of it there was a little bit of a wind issue. The forecast was heavy winds in the second half, moving in throughout the ball game, and I wanted to give us the opportunity in the second half that knowing they would take the ball, that I could ensure we would get the wind in the fourth quarter if it got windy. So there was a little bit of that played into it, but I also felt good about what we had going early in the game offensively. So it all, every game is different. I say it all the time. Yep. It takes on a life of its own, and you got to work your way through it. And this Saturday is going to be no different than that either.
No doubt about that. And before we get to the break, Cindy with a question back here, wanted to know kind of your philosophy on pass interference in the college game. Of course, when it's called, even in the end zone, you're going to have it if it's down close to be at the 2-yard line, but otherwise it's a 15-yard penalty on that. Do you like it that way? Would you rather? I mean, you coached in the NFL. You know how it's a spot foul in the NFL. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would love a spot foul. we like to throw deep, so of course I would love the spot foul. And you throw the ball 50 yards downfield, the guy gets PI'd, and you get it all the way down there. But the reality of it is, football is unique because at every level there's different rules and there's different ways you have to play it and different levels. And our rules are different than the NFL, and that's not the only one. We've got different hash marks. I mean, we've got different – the field is designed different. The numbers are different. So this is our game. We love it. We're always trying to tweak it to make it better, but we love our game.
All right, coming up, we'll take a look at this week's opponent, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, when Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark, presented by the Texas Lottery from here at Pluckers, continues on the Longhorn Network and the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from Pluckers, the West Campus location. JJ here was asking, and this is going to get into what we're talking about. I want to know what the biggest challenge you'll have to overcome in taking on Oklahoma State this week. So let's talk about the Cowboys and what you've seen from Coach Gundy's transformation of his program, so to speak, at least on the offensive side.
It really has been. When you used to always think of Oklahoma State, it was high-flying offense, throw the ball over the field, high-scoring games. That's the way they play. That's the way they won. They have totally flipped the script. These guys are a run-first offense. They run the ball over 70% of the time. They try to grind you out. It's not those big explosive plays. It's the kind of control the game, shorten the game, minimize your possessions. And then flip side on defense, they're a big, physical, strong defense. A lot of veterans, seniors all over the defense. They make you earn everything you get. They get right in your face. There's not a lot of freebies out there. So it's a different style of play than what they've played for a long time, and probably a little different style of play of really unique to college football right now.
Yeah, and in visiting with their play-by-play voice today, Dave Hunziker, he told me, he said, you've seen Princeton play basketball. That's kind of how they look at it offense, shrinking the game, number of plays in the game, number of plays by the opponent in a game.
It really is. So you look at their last two ball games, I think one opponent had 55 plays, the other one had 58 plays in the game, which is a pretty dramatic difference from what you normally get. You love to, get 70, 75, maybe 80 plays on offense. And so what happens is when your possessions get shrunk, your plays get shrunk, man, you've got to be really good. You've got to execute at a high level because you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get.
How about your thoughts on Spencer Sanders, the Cowboy quarterback?
Tough kid. Really, really cool competitor. He kind of reminds us of a point guard in basketball that wants the ball, wants to take that last shot. He's going to run it. He's going to throw it. If it's a zone read, he's probably going to pull it at a critical moment, but he's going to throw his body in there, and it's all about trying to find a way to win, and that's how he plays the game.
And maybe they don't have some of the type of gigantically explosive receivers, but they have good receivers.
They really do. Yeah. I mean, Tay Martin is a heck of a player. I mean, this guy is their go-to guy. They get him the ball a variety of ways. But at the end of the day, it's always going to come back to the running back and the way they play it right now. And they give him a lot of carries. He's going to get his opportunities.
And Jalen Warren's a little bit different, isn't he? He's different than some. They've had Chuba Hubbard, they've had some backs, but this guy's been described as a bowling ball kind of back who could duck behind the pads of the lineman and make it difficult.
Oh, he is. I mean, at 5'8", 215, big tree trunk legs, hard to get on the ground. We've got to do a great job of wrapping him up so he's not bouncing off, but we also have to get multiple helmets to the football because that's what it's going to take. At that stature, you're low to the ground, you can make people miss and then bounce off of people. You got to get them on the ground.
Here's the other thing I find fascinating about what Oklahoma State's done, and you had pointed it out as well when we came in and first visit. The Cowboys have not scored a point in the third quarter and have only scored 34 in the fourth quarter. This is a team that loves to get up on you early, and you've had a fast-starting team as well. It sounds like the battle of tempo is going to be important in the first half.
Yeah, I think so. I think for them, they love to try to get the lead, and then they try to shrink the game. And it's been a formula that clearly has worked for them here at the early stages of the season. All their games have been tight. These guys have been in all those tight ball games and been in those critical moments. But again, it's about maximizing the opportunity. We've got to execute. We can't think, well, that's okay, we'll get another one later. You might not get another one later because they really try to take the time of possession and control the ball, get themselves into third and short, convert, and just kind of methodically work their way down the field.
All right, we'll be back to wrap up this week's edition of Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark from here at Pluckers, the West Campus location in Austin, and presented by the Texas Lottery when we continue in a moment.
Longhorn Weekly with Coach Sark is presented by the Texas Lottery, celebrating 30 years of winning. Play today. And in part by Plucker's Wing Bar. If you don't like our wings, we'll give you the bird.
John Robinson directly behind Casey Thompson. Now Thompson motions Robinson over to his right. He'll turn, play action, walking for the end zone. Open, Joshua Moore caught it. Touchdown, Texas. Right over the shoulder, Joshua Moore hauls it in, and the Longhorns have their third touchdown of this opening quarter.
Outstanding throw by Casey Thompson. Had to get a little air under it to get it over the defender, and Joshua Moore went up and made the catch.
First down and 10 for Texas. Thompson now sending a man in motion. He'll turn and off play action. Casey looking to throw, going to take a deep shot. Wide open downfield. Worthy got it. Touchdown, Texas. Joshua Moore. Moore gives it a second touchdown catch. Joshua Moore into the end zone, and the Longhorns strike again.
Back on Longhorn Weekly, that's the guy you've been wanting to get going, and had the deep shots for him and the other touchdown as well, his first two scores of the season.
Yeah, it was good to get Josh going. You know, it had been, I think, a little bit of a frustrating start for him, that just wasn't, the ball wasn't coming, you know, and those shots that we took were just off fingertips. We saw it the week before against TCU on the first play of the game. It was just over his outstretched arm. So for him to kind of finally find a little groove right there, that's big for us, especially losing Jordan Whittington. So now with Xavier doing what he's doing and Josh doing what he's doing, hopefully they can really complement one another to go along with Marcus and Calvante and all the other guys.
And now perhaps the most important question tonight, is Maggie still here? Maggie with the question, do you have a favorite Ted Lasso episode?
You know, I have to be honest with you. I've never seen an episode of Ted Lasso. I feel like I'm supposed to, because I've been getting asked
Everybody's
this question,
telling you to see it?
You know, more and more and more. So.
All right. That's an off-season project.
That's right.
They're okay. Hey, I want to remind you, obviously, kickoff at 11 a.m. We'll be on the air at 10 o'clock Saturday morning here on the Longhorn Radio Network from Learfield. Next Thursday, with it being the open date on the football schedule, we'll take a break from football. We'll have a special basketball preview show with new head coach Chris Beard. That's next week. For now, for head coach Sark, I'm Craig Way. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Longhorn Weekly.